Hola amigos, Stuart here from Spain Speaks. Now, a question that I get asked a lot on this YouTube channel is Spain or Portugal? Which country is better for foreign residents or expats, if you like? So today I'm going to delve into some of the key differences and also some of the similarities between the two countries when it comes to important topics like healthcare, lifestyle, cost of living, bureaucracy, and also politics. And at the end of the video, I'll give you my final thoughts on the matter. So let's get stuck into it, shall we? Now, the first thing I want to talk about today is the lifestyle and culture aspect in both countries, what those things are like in Spain, what are they like in Portugal, are there any similarities, are there any differences? And honestly speaking, both countries have their pros and cons when it comes to this topic. It's very difficult to compare the two countries. Spain is a huge country, population close to 50 million people. Portugal's population is around 10.5 million people. Portugal is about 16% of the Iberian Peninsula, and Spain is 84% of the Iberian Peninsula. Spain is broken into 17 autonomous communities. Portugal is basically one country. Spain, in that regard, is very, very different. And also it's more culturally diverse, if that makes sense. The north of Spain is very different to the south of Spain. The northwest of Spain is very different to the northeast of Spain. The Mediterranean part of the country, or the eastern part of the country, is very different to the western part of the country. So in that regard, Spain is very culturally diverse. And also when it comes to language as well, there are 4 official languages in Spain, and I'll speak about that in a moment as well, whereas in Portugal, there's only one language. Spain has 2 very big and dynamic cities, Madrid and Barcelona. Portugal also has 2 big and dynamic cities, Lisbon and Porto, but that's where things start to differ, because in Spain, you'll find a lot more big cities than you'll find in Portugal that can also offer a decent quality of life, a faster pace of life if that's what you are looking for. And if you don't want that big city life, you can find medium-sized cities in Spain that can offer many, many positives. Portugal, on the other hand, outside of the 2 major cities, offers a slower quality of life. Yes, you can find that also in Spain, but as I said, Spain has lots of provincial capitals that have quite large populations. Think Malaga, think Valencia, think Seville, and that's naming just 3, but there's another 10 or 12 decent-sized cities in Spain, but here in Portugal, it's not the case. So if you are looking for variety, diversity, and a faster pace of life in one of Spain's many cities, then I think that's going to be the best option. But if you prefer a calmer lifestyle, Portugal could be the country for you. But again, just my opinion. Let me know your opinion in the comment section below on the matter. Now it's time to talk about the important topic of healthcare, both public and private, and it's not all that expensive either, especially the private system in both countries. Spain, I know from personal experience, I pay around 53 euros a month for full private healthcare coverage, including dental as well, so fairly cheap compared to some other countries out there. And also the public health system as well is not all that expensive, I don't think, considering that it is a very comprehensive healthcare system. It doesn't matter what goes wrong with your health, the public health system in both countries will cover you if you're paying into the system. Now, it's all going to depend on the residency visa that you have, whether or not you get access to the public health system in Spain. Not sure about Portugal, but I imagine it's fairly similar. I know that some people that come to Spain on certain visas have to have private healthcare for their visa options or to get their visa options. But I, for example, on the residency that I have, which is a long-term residency, I pay into the system because I work in the country. I have access to the public health system, and my experience in the public health system, my family's experience in that system has been very, very good. As I said before, it takes care of everything. However, it is true that over the last decade or so, more and more people have been looking for private healthcare options, especially in Spain, complaining that the public system is too slow, too difficult to get appointments for general healthcare, and operations also can take a fair while as well. That's why people have been looking for private healthcare options. So it is true that both systems over the years have had their problems, especially when it comes to waiting times to see specialists, to get operations and things like that. And that's why more and more people have been turning to the private healthcare system, which has also become quite busy in recent times, and also waiting times are starting to happen in that system as well. But in general, as I said, healthcare in both countries very, very good compared to some other countries, that is. Now, a quick break from the Spain-Portugal debate, and as you guys know, I travel extensively around both Spain and Portugal, and over the last few months there's one thing that has made my travels a whole lot easier, and I'm going to show it to you now. And this is it, my Hedgent 20-inch suitcase from the company Level 8. Now, Portugal is a beautiful country, but if you've ever tried wheeling a suitcase over these old stone sidewalks, you know the struggle. The Hedgent's wheels are incredibly smooth and silent, even on this kind of surface. So there's no risk of them breaking or falling off, which can be a huge inconvenience for travelers. And the polycarbonate shell, as tough as nails. It's also got a well-organized interior with compression straps, zippered compartments, and a TSA-approved lock. Perfect if you're hopping between cities or flying in and out of Europe. And yes, it fits easily into overhead compartments on flights around Europe and on Spain and Portugal's high-speed trains, which is a huge win for people traveling around both countries. I've used a lot of luggage over the years, but this one just feels solid, premium, and honestly speaking, stylish too. If you want to get your hands on one of these, there is a link in the description section below and you'll get a 10% discount on your purchase. So what are you waiting for? Click the link below and take advantage of that offer. Now back to the video. Now, time to talk about the important topic of cost of living in both countries. And I'm going to be honest, nowadays there doesn't seem to be a huge difference between the two countries when it comes to cost of living. Again, if you had asked me this question a few years ago, I would have said that Portugal is a lot cheaper, but nowadays it doesn't seem to be the case. If you want a more detailed comparison when it comes to cost of living between the two countries, there are plenty of websites out there that will give you all the information that you need. For example, Numbeo springs to mind. You put in the city that you want and compare it to a city here in Spain or Portugal, and you can get all the information when it comes to rent, when it comes to daily prices, when it comes to food prices. All of those things are quite detailed on websites like Numbeo. But I'm going to talk about my personal experience when it comes to cost of living between the two countries. Again, it will depend on where you're planning to move to. If you're planning on moving to a big city in either of the two countries, Madrid, Barcelona, Porto, or Lisbon, be prepared for high prices. Maybe not as high as the prices you are currently paying, but high prices for these country standards. If you're going to move to a smaller city, a regional capital in Spain, for example, it's going to be cheaper. Rents are going to be cheaper. The day-to-day life is going to be cheaper, and that will be the same in Portugal too. When it comes to restaurant prices and eating out, not a huge difference between the two countries anymore, I don't think. Again, it depends on where you are. The big cities, it's going to be more expensive, but you can still get meal offers in both countries. Spain has the menú del día concept, the meal of the day, and Portugal has that concept as well, and also the plate of the day option for economical eating. So that's a pro. When it comes to supermarket prices, again, not a huge difference anymore. Prices here in Portugal seem to be on par with the prices that I pay in Spain. But one of the big differences still between the two countries is when it comes to fuel prices. Fuel prices in Spain are a lot cheaper than they are in Portugal. For example, if you need a bottle of gas for any reason, it's going to cost you half the price in Spain than it will cost you here in Portugal. And also filling up the tank of your car in Spain is going to be a lot cheaper than here. So as I said before, the cost of living can vary according on where it is you're planning on moving to. So my advice would be to check out one of those sites like Numbeo to get a more accurate idea when it comes to cost of living in both countries. Now let's talk about something a bit more serious, the political situation in both countries, because if you're thinking long term, especially as an expat or a retiree, political stability matters, right? So firstly, let's talk about Spain, and let's be honest about this. Currently, Spain is facing a bit of political turbulence. The country is deeply divided over issues such as Catalan independence, coalition politics, and immigration. There's been a lot of back and forth in recent times on things like housing regulations, tax reforms, and even foreign residency rules. And let's be honest, that can make things feel a little bit unstable. The visa situation in Spain has also changed in recent times. The famous golden visa has been abolished. And for a lot of people that were relying on that golden visa to get into Spain, that avenue is no longer available. However, having said all that, Spain still has strong institutions and is a stable democracy, in my opinion. But things can change from one election to the next, and it all depends which political party is in power. Portugal, on the other hand, has traditionally been seen as a very stable democracy and a low-key democracy. But even here, things are starting to shift, especially when it comes to topics like immigration and housing. House prices here, especially in the big cities, Lisbon and Porto, have been rising out of control, and that has created political backlash. There's also enormous political pressure to scale back tax breaks and reform the visa system. So while Portugal may seem more stable, it isn't immune to political change. So the bottom line here is that although both countries are currently politically stable, best to keep an eye on the political situation at all times because it could affect you. Now, let's talk about one of my favourite topics, the topic of language and integration in both countries. And it might be interesting for some people to find out that Spain doesn't have only one language. Surprising, right? Yes, Castilian Spanish is the majority language in the country. Most people speak that language, but officially Spain has 4 languages, and they are, well, Castilian Spanish, Catalan, Basque, and Galician, which is spoken in the northwest of the country in the autonomous community of Galicia. And there are some other languages that are spoken in the country as well. For example, in the Valencian community, they speak a language called Valencian. So Spain can be a little bit confusing when it comes to language, but don't worry, because as I said, the majority of people speak Castilian Spanish, and that's also the language that's spoken throughout the Americas. And it's also important to know that learning Spanish and speaking Spanish reasonably well is going to be very, very important to go about your day-to-day in the country of Spain. It is true, however, that a lot of people in Spain nowadays do speak English, especially the younger generations, but to go about your day-to-day, you're going to have to learn the local language. Portugal, on the other hand, feels a bit easier for English speakers. The younger generations here speak English very, very well and are quite confident with their English abilities. And also, a lot of government websites are in both languages, English and Portuguese. So that is important. When it comes to learning the local language in either of the two countries, I reckon Spanish is a little bit easier to learn. Portuguese seems quite complicated, a lot of very complicated sounds, and the way people speak in this country is also quite difficult to understand. Spanish is a more open language, easier to learn. The vowel system is not as complicated, so I think Spanish wins when it comes to learning a new language. So if that's important, Spain would be the country for you. But as I said, getting by in English in Portugal would be easier, but in Spain, I reckon you'd have to learn the local language. But again, just my opinion. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of learning a new language, Portugal might be the country for you. Now, when it comes to transport and travel and getting around both countries, I think that Spain has a huge advantage over Portugal, but again, just my opinion. The high-speed rail system in Spain is very, very good. You can get around the country easily on high-speed trains, whereas here in Portugal, it's not necessarily the case. Yes, the two major cities are connected by high-speed rail, but getting to some other parts of the country, not so. You'll probably need a car for that. When it comes to public transport, the majority of big and medium-sized cities in Spain have very good public transport systems. I've travelled extensively around Spain and have always used public transport and have never had a problem. And in cities like Madrid and Barcelona, the public transport systems, the metro systems especially, are world-class. In Portugal, it's a different story too. Again, Lisbon, Porto, great public transport systems, but other cities might not have a very good public public transport system. And again, the car is going to be your best friend. The road system in Spain is also very good. All of the major cities are well connected via motorways. In Portugal, again, the big cities are connected. Motorways will take you around the country too, but you might have to pay for the majority of the motorways here in Portugal, whereas in Spain, the majority of motorways currently are free. So if you are a person that likes to travel, get around, get out and about, Spain is a clear winner in that regard. Now, time to talk about expat and community life. And honestly speaking, both countries have vibrant expat or foreign resident communities. Portugal in recent years has become a very popular destination for foreign residents. We've seen over the last 10 years or so the expat community here grow enormously, especially in the big cities, again, Lisbon and Porto. But you'll find people throughout the country that have come here seeking a calmer, a quieter life. And Spain, of course, also has a strong foreign resident community, especially in some of the coastal areas in the country, in places like Malaga, in places like Alicante, in places like Murcia. You'll find big foreign resident communities. Lots of English people, lots of Northern Europeans. In places like Mallorca, you'll find a big German expat community as well. So both countries similar in that regard when it comes to expat life and community. Digital nomad communities have also been popping up in both countries over the last few years, given the new visas that have come into play. So I think both countries are similar nowadays when it comes to this aspect, expat life and community. If you had asked me a couple of years ago, I probably would have said Spain because of the big communities there that have been there for a number of years. But in recent times, Portugal has become very popular, as I said, with foreign residents. And you'll find these vibrant foreign communities throughout the country now too. Now, let's move on to the all-important topic of bureaucracy and visas. And I'm going to say, when it comes to red tape, both countries can be an absolute nightmare. Spain is a country that is infamous for its paperwork and slow bureaucratic system, and basically trying to get anything done in Spain at a bureaucratic level can be a headache. Portugal is said to be better, however, some people would dispute that claim. Portugal also seems to be a little bit clearer when it comes to visa options, but again, I don't live in Portugal, so I haven't had to go through those bureaucratic processes. But the bureaucratic processes that I have had to go through in this country haven't been too bad, but again, that was a while ago. So I can't really talk about Portugal too much when it comes to bureaucracy, so I'm relying on you guys to give me some feedback in the comment section below as to what it's like in the year 2025. Has it improved? But there's one thing that seems to be common in both countries, and that is hiring people to do the paperwork for you. In Spain, they are called gestores. I imagine here in Portugal, there's a similar setup as well. You pay the money and people do these bureaucratic tasks for you. Yes, you're out of pocket, but you save yourself a lot of headaches, a lot of stress, and a lot of frustration. So both countries, when it comes to bureaucracy, can be a bit of a nightmare, so I reckon they're tied in that regard. So now it's time for my final thoughts on the matter. And basically, if your priorities are low cost, a relaxed lifestyle, and easier integration as an English speaker, Portugal might have the edge. But if you're looking for energy, variety, top healthcare, and better transport, Spain might be the better fit for you. For me, Spain is home. I love the culture, I love the food, and I love the variety that Spain offers from north to south. But I completely understand why Portugal is becoming a popular option for many people looking to move abroad. So what do you think? Spain or Portugal? Which country is the better option? I'd love to hear your opinion on the topic in the comment section below. On that note, I'm going to wrap the video up. Other questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Also, if you have anything to add to the conversation today, I'd love to hear it. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss a video when I publish it. Until the next one, hasta luego and até logo from Portugal.